Good evening, my friends. I want to talk kind of more in depth about what is recovery, sort of. It's a little related to my What is Recovery video. More about, though, how to stay motivated and encouraged for those of us who have longer recoveries. So, this is definitely a DNRS focused video. I'm sure others can find value in it, but it's definitely very much, my DNRSers, this is for you. And again, because my recovery took, and this is the thing, there's different levels to recovery. So I've achieved, from my intuitive standpoint, my third level of recovery recently. And I kind of want to start off by saying that one of the reasons recovery is so hard to pin down as to what it is that for a lot of us, and this isn't everyone, but for a lot of us, we've lived our whole life before on kind of this very exterior measuring stick. Like, we've kind of used the world's way of valuing humanity or our value. Like, we were given our worth by how much can you accomplish, how much money can you make, are you doing the things, are you checking the boxes. And when we recover, we tap into listening to our own inner voice in our heart and our soul and saying, am I living in accord with my purpose? Am I being authentic to who I truly am? Am I genuinely living my life from a place of love, of self-love that pours over into everything I do? Am I living passionately? Am I living authentically? Am I being true to myself? Really, that's that is what recovery is a life that is being lived truly authentic to who you are. And that doesn't have across the board exterior measuring sticks. So I'm going to offer you a couple of interior measuring sticks with specific examples to help break that down and make it a little bit more visible, because it's a very invisible process. The process of recovery is one that is entirely interior. And for a lot of us, one of the characteristics of LSI is that you cannot tell that someone has LSI just by looking at them. Like, it's not an exterior kind of illness in a lot of ways. There are definitely certain aspects of it that can be exterior, but it's mainly an interior thing. And so recovery too is mainly an interior thing. Okay, so enough about that. That's the premise for this. The first way I want to present to you that is really, really powerful, and in my mind, like, I've walked with a lot of people, as I've mentioned. So I started DNRS in February of 2017. So, it's April 2020, so over 3 years ago. And there's a number of people I've walked with who started before me, who started after me. And I've kind of seen people from very early on in their recovery through to the end, because I've known people who recovered before I did, that started well after I did. So I've seen people walk through. And one of the things I always notice with friends and clients and so on, as I walk with people on their journey, a lot of times it's when they hit this point, and what I call it is like your level of self-mastery, the strength of your curious observer, and your ability to dance with life. And what I mean by it is this: when we really implement pillar number 1 and we understand that this is just your brain, and you understand that as you go through the process of recovery, and maybe you get, because for a lot of people, recovery is a 1 to 2 year process from a lot of people, which is only reasonable given that most of us have had LSI for somewhere between 5 and 50 years. Is pretty, that's a common span of time for people to have had LSI. So if you've had it for that long, it only makes sense that it would take a year or 2, or for me like 3, to recover, which isn't very long in comparison with the duration of suffering, and it's very, very almost no price to pay for the freedom that you get. And also a lot of times about a year or so in, I see people start to make choices where they've rewired a lot of their basic stuff, and maybe they're still incrementally training on certain things. But maybe then they understand deeply that this is just your brain, and that it's a limbic system impairment. It's a stress-induced brain injury, and that in order to recover, it's a matter of balancing how much you have on your plate, being a curious observer, understanding I know how much I can handle right now in my life, and if a life situation comes up where you've got something going on with your family, something going on with work, something going on with just some situation in your life that is a big load for the limbic system, you take maybe some of the concrete triggers off your plate, because you understand that you'll get there, so maybe stop training with whatever concrete thing. Maybe you were training with how many hours of work you were working, how many hours of work a week you were working, words, or maybe you were training on a supplement, maybe you were training on weaning off of a medication, maybe you were training on a food, or how far you're running in a week or how far you're walking in a week, whatever, what have you. But when life happens and one of these kind of bigger limbic things, something happens in your life and you realize, okay, I need all of my energy directed towards this, and you have the ability to just drop whatever you were training on and know, I'll get back to that once this is over. I'm not at all concerned about losing progress because I know that's not how this works. I know that my only job is to be a curious observer and say, I need to handle what's happening in my life right now, and I need all hands on deck for this situation. So we're dropping all these other kind of things and focusing all the energy on this is incidental training right now. This is life. I'm dancing with life. And then once the situation passes, maybe it takes a few weeks, maybe it takes a month, you go back to your old training and just pick up where you left off and keep going. And there's just so many different levels, but it basically means that you're a curious observer. You are observing your interior landscape and saying, okay, how's my physiology? What I need to work on? It might even mean dropping your incremental training to work on a core belief or a pop instead for a little while and be like, this core belief is really inhibiting my life. Like, I'm really having some serious issues speaking up for myself, speaking my truth. I just went through this recently, learning how to speak my truth. It's a big deal, and it's a lot for the limbic system when you start being really brutally honest with yourself and other people in your life. And that took up, I'm recovered, and it still took up a month of my life to start exercising that in every arena of life, and to handle my brain being like, mommy, is it okay? Are we going to be okay? You're telling everybody the truth, like the real truth. Are we going to be okay? It's like, yeah, we're going to be fine, brain. But you kind of have to walk with yourself through that. So it's this true self-mastery where you're not in any rush. It's not urgent. You understand that this is a process, and eventually you will attain all your goals. I always like the image of, the Terminator, but like a positive Terminator. Because in the Terminator movies, the Terminator, he always walks very slowly because he knows he's going to kill who's ever there at the end. It's like he knows he's going to accomplish his task. He is so utterly confident, granted he's a robot, but still, it still works. He's so confident that he will achieve whatever it is he's setting out to do that he knows he just can walk as slow as he wants to, and he's like, it doesn't matter because he's so confident in himself. It's kind of that attitude about life. It's like, I can plop my butt down right here where I am in my life and just do whatever I need to do to take care of today. And I know that because of who I am and because of how devoted I am to myself and to living my purpose, I will achieve all of the other things in time, because life can only be lived one day at a time. So that's one huge sign of recovery, is when you're in that state of and you don't have that sense of urgency anymore about your recovery. That's huge. So again, I call that self-mastery, your ability to dance with life, your ability to take life as it comes and include your day-to-day life and your training as one thing, and understand that, this is a process and I will complete it, and I'm not worried about that. That's a huge sign that you're moving in the right direction. And that might even be, for some people, a goal, like a goal to get to that place where you're that at peace with your life. So that's the first one. The second one is new capacities. Okay, so in this one, looks very counterintuitive. I'm going to give a personal example. I'm going to read off my list here, and then I'll give my personal example. So, being calm in situations that used to be triggering, being true to yourself and your true needs and desires in new ways, greater ease in any arena of life, automatically noticing the positives. Like, if you just automatically notice what is going well, what's good in life, that's amazing. And it's a huge positive because it means your brain is automatically filtering in only the good things. Because anyone who's done DNRS knows that when you start DNRS, your brain is hyper-focused on the negative. And noticing that you've wired in a new core belief or new ways of being, that's always a huge bonus. Not bonus, it's a huge step in the right direction, because once you've got one of those things wired in, it's there, that's a huge accomplishment. So one small area of this for me has been, and it's been the hardest thing. Like, people a lot of times will ask me, like, what's the hardest, and was it really hard for you to X, Y, or Z? And the hardest thing for me in this whole process has been to let go of all expectations from the world about me. You're a mom, you're a wife, you are whatever, you're supposed to do these things. And realize that I tried that. I tried that for my whole life. I tried to conform to what the world expected of me for my entire life, and all it did was kill my heart and make me an absolutely incapacitated human being who wasn't capable of anything, because my soul was dead. It's just like, what? There's no point. So I've changed my mind. It was like, I judge everything by its fruit. Does it work? And that didn't work. So I started saying, how am I being true to myself? And one small example, I've tried for a long time to really enjoy, like, I love people, and I'm an extrovert in a sense that I love deep connection. but I am massively an introvert in many other ways, and it's been a huge process of self-acceptance to accept that and own it and live by it and not force myself to go do things that drain me. And one example with this is like church festivals and things of that nature, and even family gatherings that are like Halloween or something, where it's like, not that important. From my, in my life, that's like, whatever. And to have the confidence to kind of be like, well, of course I'm not going to go to this. Like, I went to this same event the last couple of years, and it completely drained me. And I don't necessarily regret going, but I definitely learned that I don't want to do that. Like, that's not a value. That's not a way. I'd rather stay home and listen to music and dance and meditate and maybe cook something or make a YouTube video or coach some coaching clients and do some house cleaning or something. Like, I'd much rather spend my time doing that. And for me, it was a huge step forward in my recovery to be like, of course I'm not going. I do not value that. I'm not going to waste my time on things that don't matter to me, instead of struggling with myself about that. And I get it, because sometimes early in recovery, a lot of people, there's this idea that circulates, and it's just one idea, but I've seen it a lot, that like the measure of recovery is how much you can go out and do things. And certainly the capacity to go out and do things if you want to is definitely part of recovery. Like, you want to be able to do the things you care about. But the bigger, deeper layer of recovery is saying, what is it that I actually want to spend my time doing, and doing that. And only doing that. And there are times where like I make the time to go to family gatherings when it's Thanksgiving and Christmas. Doesn't mean I love it, but I make it a priority, and I do my best to get myself ready to have a good time. I try to, I'm present, I'm engaged, and I enjoy it as much as I can, because those holidays matter to me. So it's kind of this new capacities, or maybe life. Something happens at work, something happens in your marriage, something happens with your kids, and you handle it calmly. Like, for example, my kids got a really bad flu like 2 months ago, and instead of I never had a moment of anxiety. I immediately went into compassion and care. Like, and that was huge for me. Before, it used to be triggering when I would see my kids so, like, they were just really, really sick. And some of my kids who just never stopped running around, never stopped talking, who were like, not there. And it was like, you poor thing, you need love, and you need medicine, and you need sleep, and let me just nurture you and stroke your head and give you some medicine and tuck you in and wrap you up and know that you're going to be just fine, and be able to be an anchor for my kids instead of their temporary illness disturbing my peace, and making me feel anxious. So those are some ways that you can know that you're handling, like, that your limbic system is calming down, because you're having a clearer perspective on life, and you're able to handle situations and make choices from a place of authenticity and calm, instead of reactivity and trying to perform, trying to meet someone else's expectations of you. It's a huge paradigm shift, and that is a huge part of recovery, is making that paradigm shift. So that's the second one. Those new capacities that aren't necessarily visible on the outside. Okay, last one. And this one's so deeply significant and important. Enjoying your life every single day. Like, life is here to be lived. I cannot explain how much the purpose of life is just to be here, finding joy in what is, and creating something beautiful. Like, that is the whole point. So when you live in this state where you're pursuing mood elevators and you are living from a place of creation, where you're waking up every day and you're starting your day off with a couple of rounds and you're elevating your mood and you're saying, I get to decide what I experience today. And going after that and enjoying every moment of it, and enjoying your own power, enjoying the power to make new choices and experience new emotional states, and celebrate just celebrate the shit out of every tiny little positive thing that happens in life, and learn those new perspectives. That's living. And that's the whole point of being on planet Earth to begin with. So if you're doing that, you win. You have accomplished the purpose of being here on Earth. If you're present in this room right now, and you're enjoying something right now, you're living. And this is the whole point. So just sit back and enjoy it, and keep doing that, because that is, you don't have to go anywhere or accomplish any specific thing in order to have succeeded. You don't. You're enough. Being here in this moment, enjoying this moment, it's so much more than enough. And when you live in that state of gratitude for what is, God, universe, life is just going to give you more. It's going to give you more, because you're in that vibration. You're attracting more of where you're at. And so if you're enjoying every moment of life, you can know for a fact that every single one of your heart's desires is going to manifest in time, and that you'll enjoy every little bit of that journey. no matter how much of a roller coaster it is, because roller coasters are freaking fun, man. And the roller coaster of life, this adventure of life of not knowing what's going to happen next, it's the most thrilling journey. It's beautiful. So that is ultimately like the biggest point of all of the work, of all of the brain rewiring and all of the core belief stuff and all of this and that, is just to be able to be present, enjoying your life and living your purpose. That's the point. So focus on that, because you can do that right now. That doesn't exist in the past or the future. It only exists right now. So know that that's it. That's all you need to do to be succeeding at this process. So, from my heart to yours, with all the love in the world, know that you are enough. Being here is enough. Doing the work is enough. And just rest and relax into what is. Take it one day at a time. All my love to you, my friends.